To boost morale, General Dwight D. Eisenhower visits the troops in England.
Whenever you saw somebody of high brass come near the battle area, it was impressive, and we always found him to be a well-spoken guy. He didn't look as rough to us as the man who he really was when he had to make that faithful decision, D-Day.
To keep the Germans confused about the invasion point, the Allies staged numerous probing maneuvers up and down the French coast. At dawn, June 1st, the morning is gray and dull. It also marks the beginning of the worst weather in 30 years. Bad news for the Allies. The invasion is dependent on the tide for troop landings, moonlight for the airborne, and calm seas. The simultaneous beginning of a new Russian offensive designed to preoccupy the Germans has been set. All this planning depends on the weather. The odds are against the Allies from the start. The British are assigned to two beaches, codenamed Gold and Sword. The Canadians are assigned to one named Juno. The Americans get two named Omaha and Utah. These 5 beaches of Normandy form an 80-mile strip along the Atlantic Wall. Finally, on the morning of June 5th, after already calling the ships back once because of bad weather, General Eisenhower makes the agonizing decision to go, and the greatest invasion in history is underway. The Allied probing maneuvers have created confusion within German intelligence.
The Allies had carefully planted phony information for a year before the invasion. They had been bombing the Pas-de-Calais regularly, and that's the shortest route across the Channel. The Normandy route is considerably longer.
The weather odds are also analyzed by Field Marshal Rommel. On June 5th, he leaves his headquarters to go home for his wife's birthday, convinced the Allies will never land in bad weather. But Allied forces are preparing to deliver Rommel a surprise. June 6, 1944. The seas in the Channel are typically rough as the armada of 5,300 ships move toward an obstacle that separates Europe from its liberation. Overhead, thousands of fighter planes. Also, hundreds of troop transports and gliders carrying the paratroop vanguard of the invasion. conditions are not ideal for the invasion. The waves are high and the clouds are threatening. But the loading of the convoys goes on following General Eisenhower's orders.
At that time, we had no emotion, no feeling. We just were so tense in the job that was before us that about any order he gave, we would have followed.
What the Germans saw was a sight that had never been seen before and will never be seen again. An invasion of such dimensions as to be almost incredible. The sea was full of ships. The first question was, is this the real invasion? The men who were on the beaches who saw those 5,000 ships knew very well that this was the real invasion. But the intelligence reports back in Berlin left the question as to whether this was the real thing. There was always the question in Hitler's mind and the minds of the other commanders, was this the real thing, or was this just to draw the panzers away from the Pas-de-Calais where the real invasion would follow?
Loaded with 32 men each, the landing craft start their run for the beach.
You have a lot of thoughts. What bothered me the most was that we were so jammed and a lot of guys got seasick, so we had to walk to the mess. Let me put it this way, it was very uncomfortable. The motion sickness was actually taking its toll. Guys were ready to swim in if they had to.